making noise now, videoing. Guys, do you know what day it is? It's December the 3rd, 2014. But why is that a special day? Come on, you must remember. I can't be the only old git that remembers. It's been 20 years, 20 whole years since the PlayStation 1 was released in Japan. December the 3rd, 1994. Unbelievable. I can't believe it's been 20 years. I just felt a severe urge to do this video on, I suppose, on celebration really of possibly one of the most influential brands that was born, and arguably consoles that was released, in respect of the way it's sort of helped to shape the future, but actually not so much of the future, because it's been 20 years of history since. I mean, 20 years, can you believe it? PlayStation 1 released in Japan December the 3rd, 1994. I've sort of mentioned slightly about this in previous videos that I've done, you know, a bit of reminiscing, and I think it deserves a whole discussion video just on that point, you know, especially to mark the sort of 20-year anniversary. It holds so many memories for me, and I'm sure it does for a number of you guys. I still remember December in 1994, because not only, and this is perhaps something that's sort of been slightly overlooked, because I know there's a bit of a buzz at the moment around the 20-year anniversary of the PlayStation 1, but not only is it around the PlayStation 1, but it's also around the Saturn, because the Saturn was released at the same time. I remember getting both of those consoles on import in December 1994, and it was one of those moments, and it sounds really weird sort of saying it, but it will always be a moment that I will always reminisce about. I distinctly remember sitting on my sofa in my house, and I had the PlayStation 1 in front of me and the Saturn in front of me. PlayStation 1 was playing Ridge Racer, again, absolute iconic racing game, and the Saturn was playing a Virtua Fighter. And I just remember sitting on my sofa and just watching the track sequence, and that was, I just got an immense buzz from thinking, this is absolutely unbelievable. I've got these two consoles, which was mind-blowing in itself, but also the fact that their launch titles, you know, respectively with Ridge Racer on the PlayStation 1 and Virtua Fighter was, I know there's always been this term that's been used as regards to sort of arcade perfect in your home and all this lot, but actually that was perhaps the first time that I really thought, these are arcade perfect. I mean, they actually weren't, either of them, but it was so close to getting that arcade experience. It was absolutely mind-blowing. I think that sort of era, even though I'd been into import stuff for a number of years before then, that was when I was starting to throw some serious cash at the game collecting, or the actual hobby that I had at the time of gaming. But just to reminisce slightly, I mean, I bought the PlayStation 1 on release. I think I had it delivered. It couldn't have been far off release. It was sometime in December, but I had the PlayStation 1 and the Saturn at the same time, and they cost me some serious cash. I mean, you're going back 20 years, and if I remember correctly, I paid something like £500 for each of those consoles, and I bought a couple of games with them. I think I ended up spending something like £1,200 that Christmas, 20 years ago. £1,200 nowadays is a lot of cash on gaming. You know, it was only last year that I spent about £1,000, I think, or just under £1,000 on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, and people thought I was absolutely mental. 20 years ago, spending slightly more than that, in relative terms, in today's money, okay, it makes me sound like a right old git, would be a hell of a lot more money than that. I mean, it really is. So that sort of puts into perspective, really, in respect of the import scene. I hear nowadays that people, oh God, it's so dear to buy a current gen game. You can be paying 45, 50 quid. Guys, you know, a lot of you will know that were actually buying import stuff back in those early days, how much this stuff cost. I mean, it was serious cash. Serious cash now, but then it was even more serious cash, you know, 20 years ago. And one of the dual cases I've got is for Ridge Racer Revolution, which came out after Ridge Racer, as you guys will undoubtedly be aware of. Absolutely caked with dust. And again, this is the original game that I bought, or one of the original games that I bought back in the day. So this isn't a purchase as part of my sort of retro purchasing spree that I've had over the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. This is one of the original games that I bought at the time, and it's got a sticker on the back. Now, anybody that is from the Midlands area may remember an import store called Game Shack in Dudley. I used to virtually live in that place. Used to phone the chap up who owned the shop when new games were coming out. And of course, in those days, back in the day, you didn't have the internet. You know, you can't do the research that you can do nowadays. You couldn't see gameplay or any of that. You basically looked at video game magazines, and that was your source of information. So as soon as I knew something was coming out, I'd give them a call. Hi mate, Sean, blah blah blah. You got the, yeah. We've got some copies in. Right, reserve me a copy. I'm coming straight over. And at the time, I used to live in Leamington Spa. It's about 40 mile away ish from Dudley. Shoot straight after Dudley, and I basically spent a great load of cash on games. Every time new stuff come out that I wanted, I'd be straight over there. Now, just as an example, Ridge Racer Revolution. I don't know how much you pay for this nowadays. Probably not a fat lot. They're probably not worth much. Obviously a Japanese version. Now the sticker on the back, hold on to your seat. Cash price $79.99. I'll say it again, $79.99. In today's money, that's going to be well over £100. And that was the norm. You expected to pay that kind of money, and you know, a lot of the younger generation now, again, makes me sound like a right old git. They're only so good. You know, the prices that you pay nowadays, okay, admittedly, because of the import stuff, it's you know, you're always paying inflated prices, but it's all relevant, I suppose. You know, I mean, I was really heavy into the gaming, and I used to spend some hideous amounts of money on gaming, probably more than what I spend nowadays, if I'm being honest. And I can tell you something for nothing, I was earning a hell of a lot less then 20 years ago, as you can imagine, but I was still paying these sorts of cash for, you know, these sums of cash for games and consoles, but I never batted an eyelid. I just, right, I've got to go and get that, so I'm going to get it. So it is quite a special time in my life, I suppose, as regards to reminiscing about. I actually feel so privileged in some way that I was a part of that scene. I witnessed it, and I played an active part in it, and I don't think I've ever really felt that same kind of buzz that I felt in those sort of years, you know, Super Nintendo days, not as much with the Mega Drive, but certainly when the PlayStation 1 came about, the Saturn came about, it was like, whoa, like this is the dog's bollocks sort of thing. And also when the Dreamcast come out, I was heavily into the Dreamcast. I know that wasn't as much of a favourite console, but again, it's got so many memories for me. But it's it was a pretty awesome time, and I can't believe 20 years has gone. To be honest, you know, when we look at and again, like I said, one of the most iconic races that's been released on a console gaming platform, Ridge Racer, and I just remember putting this on and thinking, this is outstanding. This is absolutely outstanding, and I might have to put that game on after I've done this video just to further reminisce. I absolutely love Ridge Racer. I really do. It's not the best driving game by any stretch of the imagination, but it's so nostalgic for me. You know, the current gaming crew, and not retro guys, but current gen gaming crew, or people of that sort of demographic, age wise. Sorry, the younger people that are into the game, speaking crap, and they see it. If they saw Ridge Racer, they'd go, "What's that piece of shit?" But it's brilliant. I still think it looks really good nowadays, even though the graphics are really dated. But that was a severe turning point for me in respect of what games could do, and what the hardware could do, and it was a definite turning point without a shadow of a doubt. So 20 years, you know, did we ever think that in 20 years we would be where we are now? I suppose the amazing thing is the potential of what we're going to see in another 20 years. You know, if we're thinking things that are on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox One, you know, Call of Duty, Forza Horizon 2, Forza 5, Gran Turismo, and what are they going to evolve to in another 20 years time? You know, it's I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue what I'm going to be doing or playing in 20 years time. I hope I'm still playing in 20 years time. I suspect I will be, because it's, you know, this stuff gets in you. It's part of my DNA, I think, as regards to gaming. I might do a bit less of it, and I'm sure my reactions will be even crappier than what they are now. It will be pretty amazing to see what happens over the next 20 years. It really will. But it's been a blast, I think. I think it's been a blast, and like I said, I feel so privileged to be part of this phenomena that's happened, really. You know, gaming, I think at the time was seen as a bit fad, and I know there's been sort of peaks and troughs, but certainly since the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, well, yeah, possibly the PlayStation 2, but I think since the Xbox and the PlayStation 3, there's been a massive increase in gaming, and the size of the demographic that is attracted to gaming. It's just grown and grown and grown, where it's a part of so many people's lives. You know, gaming is it's a normal thing to do now, isn't it? Gaming, I think, and where a number of years ago it was fairly niche. It was fairly niche, but it's just happens now. Everyone seems to know about your PlayStations and your Xboxes. It's amazing, really, how much it's changed. But yeah, it's quite a memorable trip down memory lane as regards to the PlayStation 1. And like I said, it has been a bit of a game changer. You know, did I think it was going to be a game changer at the time? Not really. I was too busy playing Ridge Racer to be, to be worrying about that. But yeah, absolute amazing experience, and so glad I was a part of that, and I witnessed it, and it does make me feel a bit of an old git in reality, but such is life. I'm sure many of you guys have got similar experiences, and I'd really like to hear about them, actually, what you remember about your gaming youth around that sort of area. In time, if you were sort of privileged enough, I'll say that, to experience it, I'd be really interested to hear what your thoughts are. Drop some comments below in the comments section. Let's hear what your gaming nostalgia memories are all about. Hope you enjoy the video, guys. So I'm getting all excited. Hope you enjoy the video, guys, and I'll speak to you again soon.